Hello, everyone. I am Varda this side as the lead of the toy sector at Invest India. Welcome to our webinar today. The toy industry has actually been identified as a champion sector in India. This $1.5 billion industry in India has immense scope for market growth and also catering to the export needs of the world. And with that in context, we are hosting today's webinar with the topic of driving investments into India and making India the next global hub for toy manufacturing and sourcing for the world. We have, as Invest India, ATPA and IETP, in partnership with each other, done a series of webinars prior to this as well, showcasing investable opportunities at state levels and at a national level for toy companies, sourcing companies, and manufacturers alike. And in continuation of our partnership, we are hosting today's webinar to give you an experience of what the toy industry in India looks like and give some anecdotes from some of the major toy brands and retailers and manufacturers in India as well. We'll start with brief introductions for with everyone who is here with us today. So I'll hand over to Matteo to kick this off.
Thank you, Varda. Thanks a lot for the introduction and for setting the stage to this webinar in the context of the first National India Toy Fair. I'm very honored to be the moderator today, and I'm joined on the virtual panel by these 5 distinguished speakers. We have Varda from Invest India, Senior VP. Also, we have Carmela Giblin, CEO and President of ITP. Both of them are, partners of the Asia Toy and Play Association, which I represent. And then we have 3 speakers from the private sector. Lalit Agarwal, Country Manager for Mattel Toys. Lalit has been Country Manager for about 2 years and with Mattel for 6 years. And he's based out of Mumbai, if I don't remember wrong. Then we have Mr. Amit from Sunlord Apparels. He's been also with the company a long time, and he manages the daily operations of the organization. And we can see a very nice setting, so where he's speaking from. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Manu Sharma from Reliance Brand, representing and running the business of Hamleys. Mr. Sharma has been with the company since 2010. And my name is Matteo. I'm the director of the Asia Toy and Play Association, and I'll be the moderator for today's sessions. Just to run a little bit through the agenda, we will start with a couple of easy questions for our panelists, and then we will welcome Dr. Mohaprata from DPIT for a special address, and then we will continue again with the panel. We are very, I would say, honored and lucky to have Dr. Mohapatra to give us a special address in this webinar. So perhaps I'll share a couple of words about the Asia Toy and Play Association very briefly, and what we've been doing in India before we jump in with the questions. So we are an international coalition of toy players. We group both manufacturers and retailers alike, but also companies active in the toy ecosystem. ATPA has been active in India for about a year plus now. We've been, conducting a lot of engagement at different levels to make sure and to support the growth of the toy industry, which now, as Varda mentioned, is really a key priority for the government, and of course we welcome that. Over the months, we engage, with different, government department, ministries, and so on, but also, providing recommendations, sharing best practices from other parts of the world with the government of India to make sure that, the growth of the sector is done in an organic and in a sustainable way. We've been engaging also with other NGOs to bring a little bit of public awareness about topics of interest, trends of the toy industry. This can be value of play, play in education, learning through play, and so on. And then, of course, we've been trying to help local companies, but also international companies to, do a bit of business matching in India and with Indian company and with foreigners. One example is one of our members, Universal Toys, that we've been connecting them to other potential buyers outside of India. And then, of course, last but not least, as Varda mentioned, we entered in a series of webinars to promote India as a manufacturing and sourcing base. And this is one of the sessions, and we will have other sessions where we will promote Indian states. But I think enough from me. I would like to start with an easy question. Maybe I'll get Varda first before jumping, asking Carmel something. So Invest India main job is to attract foreign investments. And Varda, can you share a little bit in your discussions with foreign investors why they are attracted to India and what they expect from the Indian market?
Sure, thanks, Matteo. So, at this point, we feel that the world is really looking at India to drive global growth, right? I mean, in a span of just a few years, India has become one of the fastest growing G20 economies and is actually number 3 economy by PPP. Adding to that, we have a large and a very young workforce, a young population with an average age of just 29 years. The government has a very strong reform-led agenda to promote local manufacturing in the country. We are improving cost of doing business, ease of doing business, risk of doing business. So, if I talk about costs, we have got a national land bank. It enables hassle-free land acquisition. We have done a recent reform on business costs. We've reduced the corporate income tax rate for companies significantly. Under ease of doing business, there has been a great focus on simplifying procedures, compliances in order to accelerate investments. And one of the biggest ones in this regard has been the applicability of GST, a common unified tax for the entire country. And added to it, we have strong democratic institutions. They ensure a low cost, a low risk of doing business for companies. And this is seen, it's very visible through our, World Bank's ease of doing business ranking, where we have jumped 79 places to rank number 63 in the world. So these are some of the key reforms that are reinforcing India's position as the preferred investment destination. So in a pandemic year of 2020, while global FDI actually fell by 42% last year, India was an outlier with an increase in FDI by 13%. And this is where the role of Invest India comes in. We work very closely with all foreign companies who are looking to manufacture in India, are looking to do their India market entry. We work from them right at the time that they're looking for market opportunities, guide them through location assessments, setting up step by step, work with them throughout the entire life cycle of their investment, facilitate and fast track any licenses, procedures. And then even after they set up, work with them on any policy issues or help in the implementation of any best practices that could improve ease of doing business in the country.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like a very fertile environment to really build up the toy sector and grow it. I would like to bring in Carmel into the discussion, and I would like to ask her if she can share a little bit more about the ethical toy program. I'm sure with the growth of the toy sector in India, ITP plans and objectives to grow the membership also in India must be quite aggressive. And of course, we have the pleasure to have 2 members of ITP today. But Carmel, maybe you can share a little bit more about the program and what would be the benefit for Indian manufacturers to join you.
Sure. Thank you, Matteo. Thank you, Varda. Firstly, I would like to wish everyone a very successful toy fair this year. The toy fair will be different to previous years, but it is a fantastic opportunity to showcase Indian manufacturing and opportunity. So I wish you all lots of success during the toy fair. The Ethical Toy Program, ICTI Ethical Toy Program, was established in early 2000. We were created by major toy companies and manufacturers coming together to address concerns about labour standards in the global supply chain. Predominantly at that point, the majority of toys were manufactured in China, and other parts of Southeast Asia. So it was looking at concerns around the treatment of workers in supply chains. We worked together some 20 years later nearly, we worked together with factories and their customers to ensure that consumers and regulators can have confidence in the products produced. IET provides certification, assessment, training, and other support programs for its members. And as Matteo said, today I'm delighted that we work with brands such as Mattel and manufacturers such as Sunlord, who are part of a community of more than 1,000 factories and 1,500 global buyers working together. Today, the world's production of toys, about 70% of that comes from IETP certified factories. And we'd hope with greater growth and greater presence in India, we can get that to a much larger percentage of the world's production of toys. Our priority is to work with the industry globally to ensure high quality, responsible and stable supply chains. I won't take any more time to talk about us, but if anyone would like to find out more, they can contact me directly or visit our website, which is www.ethicaltoyprogram.org.
Thank you, Carmel. Perhaps maybe I can jump with Amit. I know you've been a member of the Ethical Toy Program for the past five years. Can you perhaps share a little bit more with the audience what the program brought you and what are the benefits and also why it's been very important for your business?
The Ethical Toy Program past 5 years. And it has really helped us connect with a big and there are sourcing programs like BCI of it actually offers a credibility the others do not, and it offers recognition in source is not. I think more and more factories should connect to this program and be part of it.
Well, yeah, thank you. I'm sure there will be more and more, and I mean the National Toy Fair would certainly help in promoting that and in getting more traction for the program in India. If I can move to Lalit, maybe to get a little bit of perspective from Mattel. Mattel was the first international player to really set up the operations in India. And for many years, they've been active and they have developed a very extensive network as well as, very strong local partnerships. Lalit, perhaps you can give us some insights or some stories of what have been the greatest successes in the market for Mattel.
Thank you, Matteo, and good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Mattel set up the operations in India way back in 1987, and that's almost about 34 years as we speak today that Mattel has been in India. And during this period, we had some really good successes that has come our way. And so whether you talk from a perspective of local manufacturing perspective, you talk from a building up the trade network and retail perspective, or you talk from a brands that we generated in the country for the brands which has long heritage brands that Mattel brings, and some of the most powerful brands you have Barbie, you have Hot Wheels, you have Fisher-Price, the brands which has been there for ages now in this country for last 34 years that we have been here. So when you talk of success, Matteo, I think if I have to break down the success, it's been there. In 2001, we started local manufacturing, catering to the local demand itself. And it was in 2001, we established our local manufacturing here in India, and manufacturing was some of our all the three powerful brands on Barbie, Fisher-Price, and Hot Wheels. And if you name a few, like Barbie in India is one of our flagship brands that we manufacture here in India, catering to the Indian consumers, and special track sets that we do for Hot Wheels, and couple of entry points on the products on the Fisher-Price. So we have been doing that since 2001 from a local manufacturing perspective. But we took that a one step further in 2019, where we, couple of years back, when we established our local manufacturing footprint here to start exporting the goods to markets like US or the European Union over the last 2 years. And we see that, India is seen as one of the markets from a manufacturing perspective for exports, and hopefully the scale is going to be increasing over the next future, over the next 2, 3, 5 years as we speak. So I think that has been one of our journeys, which has been very, very successful from a manufacturing perspective. The other has been, of course, setting up the trade network here in India in terms of our retail base and availability of the the global brands that we bring to India and make it available for the kids here. The other, the most successful part, other than just the toy as a category, when we speak of our brands, it's not just that it encompasses on toys. Over the last 20, 30 years, we have been able to establish a very large footprint on licensed business for our brands. And when I talk of licensed business, brands like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fisher-Price, and the games. I mean, not to forget the games that we bring in terms of Scrabble and Unos and Pictionaries of the world. We've been able to set up a large base of licensing business here in India across categories ranging from apparels to back to school to publishing to toys, which, of course, we do not manufacture, but, outdoor and indoor toys, publishing, and, and almost close to about 100 licenses that we partner. And most importantly, 80% of these partners that we work with, they all manufacture locally. They're spread across MSME sector, which is the focus of the government as we speak. When we talk of building out the infrastructure on MSMEs, local manufacturing, Atmanirbhar Bharat, I think this is where the brands of Mattel, like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fisher-Price, play a big role in terms of establishing here, in terms of driving the agenda. So I think if I have to summarize, I think setting up the local manufacturing footprint way ahead, being one of the early entrants into the country, and spreading our brands not just across toys but across other categories, I would say, are some of the key successes here in India.
Thank you, Lalit. Moving on a little bit down the supply chain and moving to the retailer side. Perhaps I would like to ask to Mr. Sharmarino. Reliance made the move to acquire Amlis not so long ago. Of course, very well-known global brand, and which of course made the big group enter into in the toy industry. So from a retailer perspective, or a global retailer perspective, with such a strong brand, how do you see the demand and the market, the Indian market, evolving for branded toys? What do you see? How is this evolving? Has already evolved? What do you see a little bit from that the branded toy perspective?
It's a good question, Matthew. We now live in a very, very connected world, and our kids also have been more digitally native than all of us have ever been. And to an extent that today, from across the globe, children from various parts of the world both create content and consume content, which is available on digital platforms. To that extent, the kids are very well connected and very much in the know of what the global trends in the toys are. So if you were to say that if there is a product launch which has happened probably in the US, we would have so many queries from into our stores coming in, asking for that particular toy, which probably would be coming into India probably 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line. While we try our level best to ensure that all toys, whenever they launch in whichever part of the world, if they are relevant to us, are available at the same time to the Indian customer as well, there would be some supply chain gaps, etc., which probably delay supply chain. But clearly, the Indian kids are as much aware, or probably better, because we as Indians consume a lot more of data. If you've seen the stats, Indians probably consume more data than any other country in the world per capita, especially with the advent of 4G, etc. So it's a very interesting place to be in now, specifically because anything that's launched has to be in Hamleys. We ourselves, one of the key success ingredients that we've always said is part of the Hamleys story is to be first seen at Hamleys. So there are toys which we pride that were always or for the first time seen at a Hamleys store before they went out to the rest of the world. So exclusives or first seen is one of the 10 poles of the Hamleys business. And yes, the kids are all up there and connected.
Thank you, thank you. And I see that Dr. Mohapatra has joined us. So perhaps if we are ready, I could give a short intro. Are we? Okay, excellent. So Dr. Mohapatra is Secretary of the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, or DPIT, since August 2019. In his career, he has covered many posts in the public sector and has provided invaluable contribution towards infrastructure development in the urban sector, in the power sector, and also in other industries. Just to name some of his contribution, when he held the portfolio of commissioner in Surat, Gujarat, he was actively involved in converting Surat into one of the models of urban governance. He was very instrumental in developing several famous projects, including the Sabarmati Riverfront, the BRTS, and so on, and also in giving a very strong push to tourism and also aviation. In his illustrious career, he covered many positions, as I mentioned, in the private sector, in the public sector, but also as Commissioner of Transport, in the state tax, as Commissioner for Commercial Taxes, and also before joining DPIT as Secretary, he was Chairman of the Airports Authority of India and also Joint Secretary of the Department of Commerce. He worked and pioneered ideas in the field of special economic zones, very relevant, of course, to the toy industry, public procurement, and project exports. I would like to definitely thank him to find time in his busy schedule to give us this special address during this webinar, which of course confirms the importance that the government of India is giving to the toy industry. So on behalf of the organizers, I would like to invite Dr. Mohapatra to give his special remarks, and the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bejoshi. My colleague, Mr. Anil Agrawal, Vardha, all the distinguished participants in this very important webinar on driving investments to India, making India the next global hub for manufacturing and sourcing of toys. As you know, this entire series of very topical, important discussions and webinars are being done so as to make India a major hub for toy manufacturing. We all have been working in the Ministry of Industry for such a long time, but we never realized toys of all things can have such a game-changing effect in India. Honorable Prime Minister thought about it and he saw the tremendous potential toys occupy, because you all associate toys only with children and something which obviously people who are sitting in this conference don't play with. So we always thought toys are something which for the children, and probably it's not a matter of serious economic concern for any government. But the Honorable Prime Minister, in one of his very celebrated radio talks called Man Ki Baat, he gave a reference to the toy sector, and a group of ministers was formed under the able guidance of the Minister of Textiles, and it comprised many other senior ministers of the government. They made a presentation on the entire toy sector in India and how India can become a major toy hub, manufacturing hub, not only for the country, but also for exports. It is with this background and with reference to the presentations and the views of the group of ministers and the Honorable Prime Minister, a very comprehensive national toy master plan has been prepared. Various ministries in government of India as well as the state government, because India is a federal country, the states play a very major role in any manufacturing activity that we propose to do. They have joined hands to make this comprehensive national toy master plan. Certain basic things that we have done, of course, we raised the customs duty, but that's not exactly a very important issue. That was with a view to curbing cheap substandard imports to the country, but we realized that imports of very critical components for the raw material, for the toys, as well as the intermediates will need to continue. And we are quite aware of it. But what we want is, we want Indian toys to achieve two things. One is the quality. That is why quality control orders were issued. The Indian toy industry was somehow not ready at that time, so we gave an extension. And BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards, as well as our ministry in DPIIT, we have been holding hands with the toy sector to see that they match the quality standard. Certain very, very small handicrafts and other sectors, very small sectors, we have given them exemption from the stringent quality norms, but we expect the major manufacturing to be able to meet the quality norms. And why quality norm? Because if you want to send toys to Europe, you want to send toys to America, you want to ensure that good quality toys are made in India, which are used by Indian children, we obviously must give a lot of emphasis to quality. Hence, this is a background to the quality and control orders that we have issued. We have also now exploring through this discussion what kind of incentives, what kind of handholding, what kind of support the toy industry in India requires. We realize that the state governments and the central government will need to give a very supportive will need to play a very supportive role in promoting this manufacturing. But we would like to see if any particular schemes has to be done. I do not expect the solution to come from today's deliberations alone, because we need to deliberate on this further and in various other sessions. But we definitely would like to know from you what kind of interventions you require from the government of India or the state government to give a push to Indian manufacturing in the toy sector. We realize that a large part of the Indian toy industry is on the smaller scale. It's unorganized or very small scale. Under the Ministry of MSME, small and marginal sector, what we are doing is we are trying to promote 7 to 8 toy clusters in the country. States, we had a very detailed deliberations, both the ministries with some of the states, and we expect by March end, 7 to 8 new toy clusters will come up in the country under the support of the MSME. We are also several toy states in the country like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Gujarat, UP. They have their own toy policy. We would like the industry to be made aware of these supports that are available from the state, and then to leave it to them which state to focus on and how to set up their own manufacturing and expand their current manufacturing base. The next important target for us is how to, one is the quality, second is the scale, because scale is a very important determinant of how competitive you are, both nationally as well as in the international market. So we are hand-holding, we are not hand-holding, we are discussing with a lot of major toy manufacturers in the country, both from abroad as well as from India, to see that necessary toy manufacturing infrastructure takes place in the country of required quality and of required scale. The toy clusters have discussed about it. Then there are various ministries, like we have a Minister of Women and Child, we have a Minister of Human Resource Education. They are major buyers of toys to be supplied to the schools as well as to the mother and child health care. Thousands of such units all over the country with a good budget. They will definitely give a priority to the toys manufactured in the country for such public procurement. So through the modality of the public procurement, will encourage that toy manufactured in India get a priority, and they also get a ready-made market from the procurement activities of the government. So we are looking at this from the cultural viewpoint, from the pedagogic viewpoint, how to develop interest in toys, how to develop interest in the Indian cultural icons, the Indian cultural and historical traditions, how they should reflect in toys. Lot of focus on designing. We recently had a few days design workshop in Gujarat, Ahmedabad, all our National Institute of Design, our Indian Institute of Technology, they are all supporting us in this. So apart from quality and scale, the focus should be on design, so that the design factor in Indian toy industry is also of international caliber and compared to the best in the global standard. So these are some of the deliverables of today's exercise. As I said, our focus should be on how to improve the quality, how to improve the design, and how to improve the scale of toy manufacturing in India, so that India becomes a major manufacturing hub for toys. Toys find wider acceptance, and India also, as part of the, and in sync with the Atmanirbhar philosophy of the Honorable Prime Minister, India not only produces for itself, but it also produces for the world. Will require tremendous global support, and we expect and request for a lot of global support of the major global investors, major design consultants, major technology consultant to help us in this major national drive towards promoting toy industry in India. I'm quite hopeful that after today's deliberations, we'll get a lot of useful ideas which you can put into effect and which you can implement in promotion of our toy agenda. I once again thank all of you for participating in this very important deliberations today, and my sincere thanks and best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Mohapatra. This was great, and you definitely touched upon some very important points on quality, on the local development of a cultural, Indian cultural toys and so on. And this, of course, it's very important for the development of the domestic industry, and also to bring India and the toys on the external and outside, on the international scene. I mean, we have here some of the global retail, one of the global retailers represented by Mr. Sharma, and touching a little bit on what Secretary mentioned about the small artisans, the small handicraft and so on. Did Reliance Emily's already has connection, partnership with these small let's say manufacturers? And are you helping them, or you have plans to to collaborate with them to bring them not only in the local scene, but also to bring them abroad?
Yeah, so Matthew, so when as you said 2 years back when we bought over the business, we settled it in and etc. And earlier in 2020, around February, is when it was discussed and agreed that we also have a responsibility to bringing to life the Indian traditional toys in our stores, not only in India but across the globe as well. And that's where we started envisaging a section in. So toys is not like one category; it's multiple categories. So our stores are typically divided into around 12 to 13 sections. We decided to introduce what we now has gone live mid of last year, which is called Folk Tales. It's a section which houses toys from around 12 traditional toy clusters in India. Some of the toys, if I were to name, are Channapatna, Etikopaka, Kodapalli, Koli, etc. We've handpicked toys from all these clusters and created a section to, at least for our urban children, to be able to start understanding and realizing that what India traditionally used to produce, because currently and for the longest time, our stores were always driven by toys largely from the international brands. We've got a very good response, and the only challenge that we live with is because these artisans are very, very, very small, to be able to, for a large retailer, to handhold and manage them. We've now created an ecosystem. It took a lot of time, but we've now been able to create an ecosystem through which we can, on an ongoing basis, accumulate the right product and put it on our shelves. So that's shown a lot of promise. And as a first step, we are committed and convinced that we will put these toys, or the folktale section, because branding again plays a very, very important role in the otherwise very distributed ecosystem. We will place these in the global flagships of Hamleys stores. so that around the world there is visibility that can be created for these kinds of toys.
This sounds great. I mean, to have a dedicated space to showcase those local realities and also to bring them and to support them and going abroad. I think that's excellent, and it's gonna show for sure what the Indian toy market can do. Staying a little bit on the international side, perhaps I would like to ask Amit, as you have a lot of international customers and international buyers. I mean, what are they looking for when they come and source from you? And in particular, when it comes to your business, are there any specific geographies where your buyers are from, or you cover the whole world? I mean, India has some FTAs, which of course may give an advantage to certain geography versus others, but perhaps you can give us some insights on your international business.
Matteo, we sell practically to the world: North America, Europe, South America, Australia, New Zealand, Middle East, and we even export for the local Chinese market consumption. We've been doing that for over 2.5 years now. What our customers look for at us for is the uniqueness of the designs that India offers. Well, to explain this better, I have to go back a little bit in the history of how software started getting manufactured in India. There were about 7 factories that were set up between 1990 and 1995. All of these were set up as 100% UU units, but most of them closed down by the year 2000. We were one of the 2 factories that survived, and the main reason for that was that we decided consciously that we are going to use only source materials and Indian techniques to make toys. And this became a great plus point for us when we start, because we were able to cater to a more design-oriented customer who more products. So that became a big advantage for us. But besides this, India offers a lot more skills in terms of engineering, in terms of tool making, product design, product engineering, all that India is very strong in. And also when it comes to the modern age toys, which incorporate a lot of softwares and other technologies, India is the one of the biggest development hubs. I mean, we have, I don't know if you know about this chess, self-playing chess game, which is straight out of Harry Potter movie, where you are playing against almost a ghost. The chess pieces move on their own. That product is designed entirely in India.
This is great, and of course, I think in the future, and we've seen this, and we'll see this more and more. There will be more footprint abroad, and also what Secretary said about the quality control order, which I'm sure is very much welcome by a lot of by the whole industry to make sure that quality standards are met. Of course, yeah, how the whole thing about the implementation of the QCO is going, and in the middle of the pandemic, it's very challenging, especially for certain foreign players. But we hope that the government is listening, and I will address this sort of these roadblocks on for example, factory audit certification overseas and so on. But anyway, we can talk about that for hours. I wanted to touch base a little bit on with Lalit on he talked about sort of Mattel, how they set up shop and their footprint that evolved from just setting up the network and then moving towards exports in a few years ago. So moving and kind of staying within the country, perhaps what do you think the local domestic toy industry is evolving in India, where, let's say, there's been a lot of development, there is a lot of buzz, there's a lot of support from the government. So where do you see the local industry going in the next, I don't know, Well, now there is the pandemic, so it makes all things a little bit more complicated. But let's say, what do you think is going?
Yeah, Mateo. So yeah, 2020 definitely was hard on everyone, and we also were impacted given the pandemic and given the lockdowns, how it was. But I see a lot of promise for this industry and this sector going forward, and there are reasons for that, and that comes from a couple of reasons. One is, of course, the focus that the government has now brought on to the toys, as Varda explained in her opening remarks, and as Mr. Mohapatra kind of elaborated in his address. So I think that is a very welcome sign in terms of toy as an industry getting that focus, and also with the toys being included in the national education policy, which very recently got rolled out. I think that augurs well for this industry. The second comes from the demographics that the India as a country holds in terms of young population, a lot of young population getting into the working class over the next 5-10 years. Economic slate to become a 5 trillion economy as it moves forward over the next few years. And I think the focus on the quality control order, which the government has brought in terms of focus on branded play, focus on quality toys being made available for the kids, and parents becoming more quality conscious as we speak. I think these augurs really well for the toy industry as we speak, and I see a lot of promise, and I have a lot of hope for the toy industries in India. And when I speak from Mattel's perspective, I think our brands, our offerings really they can provide that kind of support in terms of driving the agenda of the government, and also bringing in that availability of the products that kind of Mattel has to offer. Going with that, of course, toys now have a play in entire early childhood development and stuff, and I think parents and all will have to is beginning to get that importance of play in early childhood development. I think that is also kind of helping in terms of bringing out the focus on the toy industry and the potential of the industry in India. But I think the couple of other factors which will drive growth and which will really impact the industry is the level of consumer spending on toys. When you compare India's consumption of toys on a per capita versus other countries, it's still quite low. And I think that is where, if the consumer spending is really goes up, I think there's a lot of promise given the population, given the working class getting into the working population that is going to get into the working class, and the young kids, that's the amount of kids that is there. The other is, of course, the entire supply chain and the availability with the growth of e-commerce in this country, with the growth of mobile penetration and the digital, as Manu spoke earlier in his thing, that how the data usage, the internet penetration, the mobile phone penetration, that's going to also help this toy industry in terms of availability, and the toys and the global brands reaching to the length and breadth of the country. So I think overall the factors around government and private sector working really closely hand in hand and developing the entire ecosystem of the toy in the country with the increased consumer spends and the improved supply chain. I think I really am a very optimistic person in terms of seeing toy as an industry having a very bright future over the next several years here in India.
Well, definitely, we all love optimism, especially in these great times, I would say. And in the interest of time, we have a few more minutes. I would like to ask a similar question to our other speakers. So, Mr. Sharma, also, what do you see? How do you see the local toy industry moving forward? Do you share the same optimism as Lalit and myself? Or more or less? Can you share a few words on that? And then perhaps Amit also can share his views, as well as Carmen, and then have one last question for Varda.
100%, Matthew. So this is a unique industry which is underserviced by a mile. Wherever we open stores, we see the flurry of demand. See, traditionally, it's always been serviced by very small mom and pop stores where the assortment has been very limited. The moment we start putting up stores in newer cities, and we currently have 120 stores, but we clearly see there's a potential to set up 500 stores in this country and in India alone. And when we say that, whenever we go to a new place, because the overall global assortment of toys, which probably the kids have never experienced in person, that's where the demand spruces up. Yeah, because there is a supply that's been created. Usually it's vice versa in most other cases, but in toy industry we are in that unique place. We are sitting in terms of penetration very low. But as Lalit said, with the digital penetration, we see that this industry is going to expand very fast and very aggressively. On the manufacturing side as well, if we are able to create a sustained retail uh, demand and grow it exponentially, there'll definitely be requirement of manufacturing coming into India. It was happening at a slow pace, but with the government intervention in the recent months, it has started to grow by leaps and bounds. Having said that, I know it's a complex category, unlike any other typical category. So if you talk about textiles, it's typically the same. It's the same raw material, and you're creating a garment which is might be different in a silhouette, but it's ultimately a fabric created out of a fabric. But if you look at toys, it's an industry made up of multiple industries, and the challenge is that it's become very trend led, like fashion. So the toys go out of fashion very fast, and it is also the challenging because the volumes are low and the prices are low. So to create economies of scale, it's a difficult task. However, but with a very willing government by our side, I think we can make that big dent, because it does not service anybody good when all eggs are in one basket, and India can be a potent alternate to currently a singularly placed supply chain for the entire world. So we see a lot of promise there. In fact, we've started moving some of our lines which India is capable of delivering, even if it's at a slightly higher price, just to start creating capacity and capability. And we, all of us in this ecosystem, whether it's retailers like us, manufacturers like manufacturing brands like Mattel, Hasbro, etc. And the third big important piece is the innovation piece. And there also the government has started to plug in a lot of interesting concepts, which we've been party to, and we are seeing a lot happening. I've always believed, Matteo, that toys is not about a range of product. It's about that it product, if that comes out of a particular company or a geography, changes the fortune. And while and all of us on this panel will agree that while Mattel would have 100 games on the list of the portfolio, the Scrabble will sell the maximum for all these decades put together, and nothing beats a Scrabble. So that, and the Hot Wheels single pack car is the volume driver for them for decades. Decades come together. So if Indian innovation also comes to age where we are able to find those few bright sparks, where those new age, cutting edge toys come out, which service the entire globe, then India will quickly jump onto the global map of toy manufacturing as well.
Great, fantastic. I like your vision and also what you're expecting from the industry. And Amit, your views on the future?
Well, the future is definitely optimistic, but I think we need a lot more support. The but what the industry really hopes for are three things. First is ease of supply chain. It is a known fact that we cannot survive without importing items from China. If I have to start, if I need an electronic module to include in my toy, I am not going to start making it in India. It's very much easier for me to buy the module from China. India is developing these capacities. India is developing these resources, but it will take 2 to 3 years. Towards this, we have given a proposal to the government wherein companies that already hold a BIS license should be allowed to import components without requirement for the supplier to be BIS certified, and also that these components should not be at the high duty rate which is put on toys, should be on a lower duty rate. And this duty rate can be given as a special scheme that, okay, you get a 80% off in the first year, 60% off in the next year, 40% off next, so that there is advantage for us to start manufacturing these in India and start sourcing these in India. The second important thing is the availability of trained manpower. And in this, I mean not just the workers in the factory, but also managers who understand the testing, who understand the quality, who understand the design, who understand the engineering that goes into manufacturing of toys. The industry has traditionally been entrepreneur driven, and that has been a boon and a bane for the industry. We've not been able to grow because of the limitations of what all an entrepreneur can do. If you contrast the toy industry with the fashion industry, with the start of NIFT, the National Institute of Fashion Technology in India in late 1980s, there was a big boom in the number of exporters who were set up, number of fashion brands that were set up. And we need something similar for the toy industry. And we need it sooner than later. This can't be part of a 5-year program. This needs to be done immediately. So I'm sure the government should definitely look at this aspect. The third most important aspect is that if we are looking at exports as as promoting exports, we need to prepare our factory for all the requirements of the export market. The ICTI certification is one of the most important ones, and it takes a lot of effort to understand the requirements, implement them. Also, we've now been introduced to the QCO in the last 1 year, but that QCO is just one part of the toy safety requirement. If you look at the requirements for Europe, for USA, for Australia and New Zealand, they're different, and in some cases much more advanced than the requirements that we have in India. We need to train ourselves for this. We need to make sure that our raw materials essentially meet a lot of these requirements. This is where, again, we need a lot of help from the government to be able to experiment and do testing of various types of materials to see what can meet these requirements. So if the government looks at these 3 aspects consciously, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we should close to triple or 4 times our current export volumes.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I fully agree with you. Potential is there. Lots of some work to be done. I'm glad you touched about raw materials, which of course is a pain point. But the government is definitely looking at that. And these days it's cheaper to get raw materials from overseas for certain raw materials than from India itself. Of course, this somehow needs to change if the government and everyone wants to develop the manufacturing. But yeah, of course, nothing happens overnight, and especially now during COVID times, this takes a little bit longer. And I'm sure also Invest India and Varda and the team have seen. Despite there is an inflow of investment, that it takes time to really set up shop. But Carmel, what are your expectations from India, and really how ITP can fit into all this whole story that we just heard for the past hour? What are your views for India?
I think, as the other panelists have said, there is much to be optimistic about in regards to the toy industry in India, both from a domestic consumer market and an international consumer market. As I said earlier on, we work with more than 1,500 buyers, be from big brands, small brands, retailers, etc., all over the world. And there is huge interest now in sourcing from India. People are thinking about diversifying their supply chains much more, both to serve the domestic market, which we know India will become one of the largest consumer markets in the world. So there is huge interest in serving the domestic market, but also the export market. The government have shown that they are supportive, very supportive of the toy industry, and I think that's fantastic. And Amit has shared some areas that he'd encourage them to look at again to encourage more participation, and I would fully support those. But if I just very quickly think about what buyers want, again, I don't think we should differentiate between domestic buyers and international buyers. first and foremost, buyers want no surprises in their supply chain. They want a stable, secure, and trusted supply chain. Buyers want to build long-term partnerships with their factory partners, their manufacturing partners. And they want those partners, and again, this was something Amit talked about and others, they want them to be innovative and responsive. Innovation is key, and I think India has fantastic skills and capability in this. Ultimately, they want to have security and trust, like I said. So they want to ensure that partners that they work with help protect their reputation. They want to ensure that workers are treated well, that the product is high quality and the product is safe. Indian manufacturers that have worked with us for many years demonstrate that they can meet all those requirements every day. And I'm sure there is a vast universe of other manufacturers that can do the same. So I think we're right to be optimistic, and certainly from the Ethical Toy Programme perspective, we're here to work with our friends in India to make sure that we can fully leverage that opportunity.
Excellent, excellent. Wow. So, I mean, from everyone's comment, I can see that there is definitely a bright future ahead. Lots of work to be done, and that's where, you know, associations like ATPA, ITP, and so on, we work with the governments in India, but also outside of India, just to make sure that, you know, this process moves forward in a nice way, and then, you know, the companies can really actively contribute to this and try to remove roadblocks and you know, some change some regulations perhaps, and really make sure that everything goes smoothly. And of course, let's not forget that ultimately our job is to put a big smile on children's faces. I have a lot more questions, but I think I'm running out of time, so I'll pass on to Varda for some closing remarks. And I would like really to thank all the panelists today. We had a great conversation and lots of insights about the local market in India, the potential there. And of course, we definitely want to continue engaging with the government actively to make sure that, again, that all these roadblocks that we may find along the way are removed. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to continue the discussion offline. Varda, over to you.
Thank you, Matteo, Carmel, everyone, all the panelists. I think the discussion was very, very relevant in today's time, especially in the middle of the toy fair that we are having right now. I think some of the points raised by you all were noteworthy, where especially like things like the import of raw material, you know, the point about how QCO is only the step one to this, and there's so much more that we need to do even beyond just the QCO. Skilling, preparing our industry for a bigger role that they need to play in the entire toy ecosystem. These are points that now that the government is very cognizant of, and as Dr. Mohapatra also reiterated previously in the session, the government push for local manufacturing and sourcing is very strong. It's a nationwide push to harness and integrate indigenous toy making, learning, you know, encompass all manufacturing capabilities, adopt a whole cluster-based development approach to the entire ecosystem, and then augment the entire toy industry in the country. And we as Invest India, as representatives of DPIIT and the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, are here to handhold every investor through this entire journey, take up issues that are, you know, bothering you, table them and see what is the best kind of solution that we can offer in such a circumstance. And also for the investors, toy manufacturers who are watching this right now, the Invest India team is also available to respond to any of your questions and queries through the email ID of the India Toy Fair, investors@indiatoyfair.in. So please write in with any queries of this nature that you may have, and we'll be happy to respond to you. Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us today.